If by some chance, some stroke of luck, or some act of God, you have stumbled upon this broadcast, you are listening to The Chivalry Chronicles with your host, Dr. DLH.
I'm a damn doctor.
David.
We're going to bring the tea.
refuse to not drink during the podcast.
Yeah.
And me, Jaime. They need to make podcast equipment a lot more expensive to get some of these clowns off the air. Gather around as we discuss a modern, manly approach to chivalry. So I hope you're ready, because I know we are. So let's get into it. Ooh, boy, that was a good one right there.
I'm out of ice, so you can't hear my bourbon.
Oh my God, we've been sitting here for about 30 minutes trying to figure this out.
30 minutes has been more like 45 to an hour. Like
An hour. We've been here for
I
an
got
hour.
here at 12:15, Jaime.
Yeah.
It's 1:30.
No,
Wow.
you were later than that.
No, it's 12:15.
No.
It was 12:15.
Yeah. Either way, the point is we've been talking for a long time on how to entertain you people.
It just means we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of great equipment, though.
we
and-
do. Yeah.
David just bought more equipment. I mean, he came in hungover. Tell us why you were hungover, David.
Well, I decided to go across the street to my neighbor's house and play some pool, and that led till 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's a common thing that happens all the time
Well,
to everybody.
It happens all the time if you're single. If you're married, you get that call about 2 a.m. Where the fuck are you? Get your ass home.
2. It's more like 11. Are you coming home or not?
What's going on?
Yeah. Are
right
you
across the
okay?
street.
Making sure you're not in the street dead somewhere.
Yeah, like we have our phones have the Find My whatever.
Yeah.
And so we track like the kids and my wife and all that. So the kids do that to us, right? Like, what are y'all doing downtown?
Why you all up in my business?
Yeah, like go somewhere, little girl. Ain't
hey,
nobody got
that's
time
when
for
you strap that GPS or that little tracker on the dog. Just leave it there.
But it's on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just change the SIM card out.
True. Or don't friggin',
Ban
share your
kids.
location.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, you can
Can't do
stop sharing your location. Maybe that's what we should talk about right there.
Stop sharing your
So,
location.
how to stop sharing your location.
I want you to stop sharing your location with your wife right now.
I'm just going to get a wide. Well, and then that would bring up an interesting question. Why did you stop sharing your location?
Why?
How do you know I did that? Why are you tracking me? Right? It's 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. We're wondering why.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I want to see you do it. Do it on the podcast right now.
Do it. Oh.
Let's see how long it takes.
Yeah, because
Put the timer on.
Here's why. Our topic today is going to be is your significant other your best friend?
Oh, that's
just
what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. I just made the decision right now because we're talking about this. But let's call back the Guadalupe Peak travel, right? I mean the hike. So MT's wife was calling him.
Yeah.
How are y'all doing? Whatever. Your wife, I think, called my wife. Have you heard from the guys?
Uh-huh.
And my wife was like, I think they're fine. I mean, what?
Yeah. But then afterwards, she said, "Should I be worried?"
Yeah, because I mean, she's like, "You never calls me anyway. There's no cell service. We can't. You know what I'm saying?"
I think that's why, because I got cell service at the top, and I called her.
Yeah, and then
the top.
we hear that chopper come in. It's like, and she's like, "David, why haven't you called me?"
Because I called her from the top. When I got back down to the bottom, it took longer than she thought it should have taken.
I know.
Like, that's a good opinion to have while you're laying down. Or on
I know. MT's wife was like, "Y'all are just leaving? Like, y'all should have been out there at 8 a.m." It's like, damn, you're right. We suck.
I blamed Dan largely
Why?
because he was the one that was all the way in the back. It wasn't because it was Dan. It's because Dan was in the back. So if Dan had been up front and one of y'all were in the back, I would have blamed whoever was the furthest back.
Well,
Well, I'll have you know, nobody called me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody called looking for me.
That's because nobody noticed.
Nobody cares.
Nobody noticed you weren't where you're supposed to be.
This is something that I brought up. I don't know, last year or sometime like that. Here's why I brought it up, because it really irks me when guys, I if a significant other says it, the female, right, whatever, like, good, cool, you're good. But when a guy says it, I'm like, stop lying, dog.
Says what?
Says, my wife is my best friend.
Do they say it like that? Is
Yes,
that what it sounds
they're like, she is my best friend. And I'm like, you lying sack of shit.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Y'all be prepared to comment wherever you see this posted. Send comments.
But since we have David here, David was married previously. I want to know, when you were married, and how long were you married?
Almost 10 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. 10 years. I mean, it's right before you have to pay alimony.
No,
it's 10 years. No, it's 10 years. I think it's, if you're married 10 years.
State of Texas, I don't think has.
I only know that because I was out with a friend of mine. We were smoking cigars and shit like that, right? We used to go. And then he invited one of his friends, and his boy shows up. He's like, man, y'all ready to party? You know, I was like, nah, man, we're just sitting there hanging out. He's like, shit, y'all married, huh? I was like, yeah. He goes, how long you been married, Jaime? And I was like, at the time, it was probably like 15. And he goes, shit, you can't go out. It's after 10, I divorced at 9 years. Because after 10, I think you have to pay.
No, there is no have to pay. Alimony is mostly dependent on like where the source of income comes from. If it's shared.
What if you have the?
Yeah, but in the state of Texas, I don't remember how it is, but specifically, alimony is not as prevalent here in the state of Texas as it is elsewhere.
That's because everybody here doesn't. I don't think that they have.
Well, I would have
money
benefited if I would have made that 10 year.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. But like if you're the sole source of income, and the spouse, whether it be man or woman, is the one who's dependent on that income.
All right, in Texas, a marriage lasting 10 years or more significantly influences several aspects of a divorce, particularly when it comes to spousal maintenance, alimony, and property division. The 10-year rule in Texas allows for spousal maintenance awards if the marriage lasted 10 years or more, and the requesting spouse cannot provide for their basic needs due to disability, childcare responsibilities, or lack of earning capacity.
That's what we're talking about. It depends on who the source of income is.
Mostly, I mean,
yeah, but
on the
also
average,
the 10 year that he's talking
more,
about,
right?
Yeah, but what I mean is like if you're both working, you bring in an equal amount ish of income and property, then there is no alimony to be paid out. You just divide the assets, right? But if you get one source that is 80, 90, 100% of the income, then you're more likely to wind up paying alimony because over the decade, the spouse has become dependent on the way that you live.
Mm-hmm. So in Texas, there is such thing as alimony, depending on a couple of things.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere there's.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, David has said in the state of Texas. No, it is right here.
Well, I didn't say. I said I think there's not alimony.
Okay,
it didn't apply to me. Let me put it that way.
All right.
So anyway,
getting alimony does not make your spouse your best friend.
Okay, so when y'all were married. Somewhere in the middle when it was still good, right? Before y'all.
Yeah.
Did you consider your wife your best friend?
No,
and tell us why.
No, I guess whenever I view marriage and the relationship with the spouse as a different layer or level of a relationship, right? So friendship to me means it's a totally different category, and I wouldn't put. There's things that I would tell my best friend, and there's things that I would tell a significant other or spouse, right? So,
what are those things?
Well, I think there's intimate things that you would share with your spouse, some vulnerabilities. That you would share with your spouse that you wouldn't your best friend.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
Go in those aspects, right?
Right.
And then I also think with a spouse, I feel that you should be more beholden to like loyalty or things. You have obligations, whereas a friendship is just more of a want.
Yeah.
So the spouse is more of a need when you're in that relationship, the things that you need to do for the most part.
Yeah.
Versus with a friend, almost everything across the board is you want to help them or you want to
Shouldn't it be the same for when you get married? This is the person you want to do those things with most, which is why you get married in the first place.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get? I mean, well, I know how you can get obligated into marriage, shotgun weddings, things like that. But ultimately, they're not like you're not obligated to get married.
No, correct. But I think once you've entered into that realm, there's a layer there. Yes. Yeah, that becomes.
Well, I think
it's almost like your kid too.
Yeah,
like
it's the opposite with a friend. A friend, you don't have to. You're not. Yeah, but with your wife, it's like you're obligated to do it. You should want to do it, but you're obligated to do it.
I think all of it you want to, because if you don't want to do that, you have the option of getting divorced, right? Separating, whatever you want to do.
You do, but when you add the layer of marriage, and now you have rule of law, you have the sanctity of marriage, and the layer of that just adds a layer that creates it or makes it an obligation versus
no. But what you're saying is that the rule of law is a layer that you must go through for something that you either want or no longer want, right? Which is not required by friendship, sure, but you have chosen to enter into that relationship. But if if we put any legalities on friendships, does that mean that you would no longer have any friends? That's a weird way to think about it. I know, but it
is. But here's
I think when you're obligated to do something, it makes it less fun sometimes.
and it might be right. Well, but what I'm saying is that when it comes to marriage, if you're feeling a sense of obligation, I get a sense of duty. But
maybe that's what he means.
But your sense of duty, because you want to hold that duty, I think is different than when you are obligating yourself. Because obligation implies I don't want to do it. I feel the need to do it.
I don't think it implies that you don't want to. Yeah. No, it means you're obligated to do it.
But everything in a marriage, it's not
a responsibility.
You have a sense of duty that you willingly take on, right?
Well, I think it's semantics now, right?
Well, but they matter.
You're saying that when you say obligated, that means you don't want to do it, but I don't see it that it means you're obligated to do it.
Which means what?
Which means that because you're married, these are the things you have to do as the man of the house, as the husband, as being the provider, as you have to do them. There's nothing.
But you willingly take that on.
Some do, but I'm just saying obligated doesn't mean that I don't want to do it. It means I'm obligated to do it.
And the big piece, because he asked me in the middle of my marriage, right? To get to that point, there was different layers. So I had the desire, I had the want. We both then married, right? Years go on, and as those years go on, those obligations all take shape. Those take shape the moment that you get married, because it's now legal, because you've went through this ceremony, that type of stuff. Whereas a friendship, you're not having to do any of that stuff. So it's a different level. I wouldn't describe my wife, now ex-wife, as my best friend. I just wouldn't.
Okay. I mean, and there's no wrong answer, right?
Yeah.
I'm asking you that just to get your perspective. What about you, Dylan?
I think when I'm thinking about this part, right? Like, so obligation.
You're stuck in obligation, huh?
Obligation versus duty. Yes. Okay. I think that it is a part that does come into play, because when we think about obligation being a little more formal, it is something that you may not want, but it is a formality or legal or morally binding, however you want to view that. But it is something that must be done, even if you don't want to do it, if you're going to remain part of what you want to remain part of.
Yeah.
Whereas the duty is something that you encompass as a broader, we'll say, philosophical element of something that you believe is part and parcel of what it is that you want. So being in marriage doesn't mean that you want to, I don't know, maybe you've been
you
the
don't
person
want to
mow the lawn, take out the trash. Like, who wants to do that sort of stuff? Maybe some people do, but I think in large part, nobody wants to do these tasks, but you understand and you choose to take on that sense of duty because it's part of what's expected in that role. Right. And if you have enough of those put together that I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, and I'm not getting enough out of what I'm feeling from this other person, you exit the marriage. Because then it goes from the sense of duty to a sense of obligation without fulfillment.
Well, and you kind of do that with friends too, right?
You can do that with friends. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, but ultimately, this is where I am now transitioning to that point. Is we're talking about relationship dynamics. Mm-hmm. If we're in relationship dynamics, we enter a relationship under evolving. We'll just say that the premise of what we have is evolving, based on the dynamic that we share in the beginning and how we both decide over time it's going to evolve. So friendships, brotherhoods, all of these things, they evolve in that way, right, for us. So this is why I would say that whenever you are in a certain situation, you have certain friends, brothers, and people that you know that you can call and rely on in certain situations, but maybe not in others. Right, you kind of put them in a loose category of how you can depend on them or not depend on them, given a situation. So when we're talking about a spouse as a best friend, and we are looking at the most vulnerable, if we are our most vulnerable, it's very difficult for men to share any vulnerability with another man. You have to have a tremendous amount of trust in that other individual in order to do that. Right. And it's not just because it's another man. Like with your spouse, that's someone that hopefully you make that connection, and that is your home base. The person that you share your wins, your losses, your even the things where you have a great deal of ambivalence but it's causing you some sort of emotional distress. Right. That's my wife for me is my anchor.
She's your best friend.
She is. This is why I would say she is my best friend, because as long as we are good, as long as she and I are good, I feel like I can traverse whatever. I'm fine. I will go and I will, and keep doing all the things that I can do because she's my home base. She is my anchor. If our relationship gets rocky, everything is going to start shaking for me.
But see, I think you're describing something else other than friendship.
Well, then maybe we should elaborate on what we mean by friendship. Yeah, because you're saying best friend, not just friendship.
Best friend, yeah, yes, and the reason
give me a definition.
So, like everything you said, yeah, I agree with. Like if and I've told this to my wife, I was like, if you and I are good, then screw everything else, right? F them kids, because if we're not good, nothing's good.
Yeah,
like, I mean, I'm pretty sure you both of y'all have been married and are married. When you're fighting, right, and you go out to dinner. That dinner is the most uncomfortable dinner ever, right? Because it's like there's something there, and the kids know it. The kids are like, "Oh shit, parents are fighting."
This tension that's just there,
and so it screws up everything, whole family dynamics. So to me, a best friend, right? And okay, I'll ask you, both of you, do you have a best friend right now? Like, do you somebody like that's my best friend? I think that's.
I really don't make it singular. Because I have
right. Several. I can't. Yeah. I don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't think of who's your best friend.
If we're gonna talk about my best friend overall, like I said, it's my wife. And if we're talking outside,
no, you're supposed
to
say it like Jaime said it earlier.
If no, my best friend, my wife is my best friend. I gave it a shot. I don't know how to do that voice.
So,
but if we're talking about my best friend who I'm not married to. His name is Scott, right? He lives in Rhode Island right now.
Did y'all used to be married and then?
No, actually, I met him. I met him when we lived in Ithaca, and I met him through my wife. They were colleagues.
So then you dated the friend, and then you married the friend of the friend.
Yeah, well, she didn't know him at the time. We my wife Victoria and I we started dating or whatever. We were at SWT.
Yeah,
and then when she moved to Ithaca before I did, and then as a colleague she met Scott, and then he's a great person, and we met because he was going through. Well, I met him before he was going through his divorce, but that's actually how we became close. Yeah. He was hanging out, And
you still hang out with him?
Yeah, he's going also to my graduation next week.
Cool.
And he was the one that I went to hang out with when I went to New Orleans recently. He's the one I went to go hang out with. So it's not you, David.
I know
you're not his best friend.
Effed up, bro.
Well, okay.
So here's the thing. When I think of best friends, right? I put my wife in this other category that's not friendship, right? That's a wife. That's a deeper connection. That's all of that. Because there's certain things that you do with friends that you can't do with your wife.
Correct.
There's a comic, I forgot his name, but he has a joke, right? He says he got married, and then they move into this house, and his wife is out at the supermarket or the grocery store, right? And texts him, "Hey, I'm at the supermarket. Do you want anything?" And he looks at it, he's like, "Fuck you," right? And then he's like, "I got her. It's funny, it's good." And then doesn't hear from her, and then comes back, and she's come back crying, and he's like, "What's wrong? What happened?" She goes, Why did you text me that?" She goes, "I joke around with my friends. That's what we do. We joke around." She's like, "That's mean." She was like, "But it was just a joke." And he goes, "That's what I do with my friends." She goes, "I am not your friend. I am your wife." And he goes, "So she made it really very clear that she's not my friend."
Well, see, and I don't think that everybody's necessarily is going to view this the same way, right? Which is why we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
But if you're saying that there are certain things that you would do that you would either do with your wife that you can't do with others, or that you would do with others that you can't do with your wife.
Absolutely.
But I would also argue that there are certain friends where that remains consistent. So there's certain things that.
What do you mean? What remains consistent?
So we are labeled as brothers, right? Fraternity brothers.
Correct.
Okay, friends. So if we consider this friends because we're not blood related, right, or anything like that.
Yeah.
We're not legally bound. So we are friends. But there's certain things that I can do with you that I can't go and do with Scott or my other friend Mark, right? That have no knowledge of any of the things that we do. Our interests are different. But then there's also things that I would do with Scott that I wouldn't do with any of you, right?
I don't want to do those things. So.
Whatever it is. But even if it was my friend Mark that I've been friends with for 30 years, there's certain things that we do that I can't do with y'all. There's just a way that you delineate. These are all friendships.
No, absolutely. We've talked about this before. There's circles within circles. There's people that are a lot closer, and there's people that
Okay.
So a friend of mine called me, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago. And it's a guy that I hadn't seen in over 30 years. And we grew up together. We went to high school together. And he came over the house, and we just kind of started talking like we used to. And he's like, "Man, it wasn't like any time passed. And I hadn't seen this guy in 30 years." It's like, so I was like, "Man, that's a good friend, right?" There's just certain things that I think just male friendships are different.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt. But male friendships are different even if you have other female friends. They're different.
Yeah.
Friendships are just different based on. So I don't know that it's necessarily that in this context whether marriage is the proper delineation, because your friendship with multiple people can be different based on how you relate to one another. Right? It's just that you happen to relate to your wife on a level that is more intimate and trusting than any other. So why not consider that of all friends, because it is a relationship that you have voluntarily entered and voluntarily maintain.
Right.
So if we think of friendship, and then you can come up with whatever definition you want. There are different ones, but the one that I think about all the time is what brings this up: a person who is held in high regard as a friend, someone you trust, enjoy spending time with, and confide in.
Yeah,
they are typically the first person you call when good things happen, when bad things happen, or even when you are feeling some sense of we'll say uncertainty. Who do you call when those things happen?
Ghostbusters.
But I think so. what I was saying is, yes, but that's more than that's not friendship to me. That's more than that's your wife, right? That's your, if it's your dad. To me, like if that joke.
If they're all friends, why designate a best friend?
Because I think marriage is more deserving than the label friend.
Yes.
But then you label best friend.
It's a label.
Why best friend? Otherwise, why not just say friends? Why do you need a best friend?
You don't need a best friend.
Then why not just stop using the term? But you have brought up the question.
Yeah. That's why I don't call my wife my best friend.
Okay, but that implies, though, that there would be a best friend aside from your wife. So why do we even need the label best friend?
Because there is a label best friend.
Just because there is in the vernacular?
I mean, there is.
But
right?
do you have one?
I mean, are we eliminating it? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe we should. That's the argument we're making right now.
That doesn't make
eliminate
sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, no, that's what I asked David. I was like, I can't think of someone I could say is my best friend. Like, when you were in the 5th grade or the 4th grade, that's my best friend. I could tell you the guys that you hang out with. They were like,
yeah,
really good friends, right?
The end of that phrase is right now.
Right now, I mean,
that's my best friend right now.
Yeah. Like I talk to my little brother all the time. I mean, but he's my brother. So
he can't be your best friend?
He can't.
But what
he?
if he is?
Maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like I talk to David all the time. Is he my best friend? Actually, which is funny is like the ITs at work is like, he's like, Mr. Jaime, is David your best friend? I started laughing. I was like, why would you say that? He goes, well, you mentioned him a lot, when y'all go, do stuff. And I was like, no. And then Lupin's right there, right? And I was like, Lupin, is David my best friend? He's like,
because now if you consider brother like a familial bond,
yeah,
and let's just say that your brother is close enough where you might say that he is my best friend. But if you're eliminating the possibility of best friend because you're married to someone, now you're talking. Now hold on, you have entered into a relationship that is completely like you're willfully doing it now. Yeah. And when you're talking about bloodlines, you are blood related. So does that automatically eliminate a brother as a potential best friend?
I think so.
Or can your brother be your best friend?
It could possibly, but I think because he's your brother, I think it's different.
Why not?
It's almost like in politics where if the politician goes from, they're a representative, but then they become a senator, you don't refer to them anymore.
That's because they have taken on a different job.
Well, no, but even like Obama, they would still refer to him as Mr. President, right?
Community activist.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
He's not president.
Yeah,
right
but
now,
you're talking about two different things. You would have to talk about a job where there's the potential for taking on more than one role at one given time.
Well, what I was trying to equate it to is just that the highest, whatever sits at the highest part of the pedestal is what you refer to. So brother should sit higher than a friend.
Yes. Yeah, because if you
should sit higher.
Unless
no. If you're standing at the top of a cliff and there's two people that you're holding on to, you got to let one go.
But what if you
would you let go your brother? Would you let your brother go?
What if your brother is a terrible human being and your friend is not?
What would your mom say?
Is that what you think about? Because then what would your mom say about all of your friends?
I'm just saying. Like you would have to answer some questions.
I don't know.
Like nobody would bat an eye if you had your friend and your brother and you had to let one go and you let your friend go and you save your brother and nobody would be batting an eye. They'd be like, okay, well, shit, you had to do that.
Yeah, you had to.
But if you let go of your brother and keep your friend, now you got to answer some questions.
But if one of them was more
deserving
than the other one, I would answer the questions and I would be justified in my answer.
But what I'm saying is, regardless of whether you're justified, wouldn't you be asked more questions if it wasn't your brother?
I don't know. I think I would be asked the question as to why I was in a position.
Bullshit.
Why would I be in a position on a cliff holding two people?
Because he's just trying to illustrate. He's trying to illustrate.
You know why? It's just an example. You're just trying to avoid answering the question.
I think I agree with you.
You know that you would be asked more questions.
You're saying that the social constructs of brother versus friend, that they sway towards the familial bond.
Right.
But we all know that at some point if we are going to talk about the potential loss of human life, that's a terrible position to be put in. But just because you are, like blood related to somebody doesn't
obligated.
Make that person, it makes it more obligated than a sense of duty.
Yeah.
This is why that verbiage matters, right? Because you are more obligated to somebody that you are blood related to.
Yeah.
As opposed to a friend that you can have a sense of duty towards because they have earned that, right? That, for me, is what I would be obligated to. It's not that you have to necessarily appease me, but to some degree, yes. Isn't that how we all operate? Like, you learn from me what you can expect and not expect. I learned that from you, and then we learn that from each other. And then when you start to see that somebody is really understanding of the dynamics between you both in that relationship, you start to hold that in higher regard. And I think that that's just the nature of human dynamics, is that we are going to hold people in higher regard when they show that they are trustworthy. Because even though none of us want to be vulnerable, if you are, who can you trust to help you in that position? And I think that those are the things that start to come up a little bit more.
Yeah, but I think I agree more with David in the fact that I think a marriage or your wife is a little bit higher than any friend, any, best friend. It's different. It's a totally separate and up here.
But if
situation.
Your marriage starts to crumble,
what?
And then you turn to whomever the friend is.
Well, call me whenever that happens, because
I'm just saying, if you do that, the dynamic changes, and if the dynamic can change,
but you can say that about anything.
Exactly,
you can say that about anything.
That's what I'm saying about a best friend.
I have a great job, but what if your job starts crumbling?
But also for the person,
it's a great job.
That's my best friend for right now, because dynamics can change.
The dynamics can change, but that's where what I was saying earlier comes into play. There's more hoops you have to go through to detangle yourself from a marriage as opposed to a friendship.
But that's not how I view that. I'm not worried about the legal entanglements.
But
I'm
what
worried
if it
about
starts
my
crumbling?
relationship.
But what if it starts crumbling?
Then things are going to get bad.
Yeah, well, and I agree. I totally agree with all of that. But that's where I'm saying there's added layers that
I think saying that your wife is your best friend is kind of bringing that person down a peg. Yeah, I think it's just separate. There's friends, right, and then there's your wife is over here. Like there's certain things you can't do with her. You just can't.
Yeah, there's a reason whenever you say, "Hey, I'd like you to meet my wife," you don't say, "I'd like you to meet my best friend."
Well, I think DLH is going to start doing that shit just to prove a point.
But even when you do
it this evening, watch.
But even if you were your wife's not present, your best friend is that how you introduce them? Hey, this is my best friend.
Yes, I've heard a lot of people do that. Yeah,
and I've heard the Jaime version of best friend too.
This is my best friend. That's my version of DLH.
I think that's why I have never done that.
This is my best friend.
I can't even hit that tone of voice. Do it again.
This is my best friend. That's DLH.
That's almost spot on. Just more of a whisper.
Yeah.
Just more of a whisper.
Yeah, because he's straightening his bow tie. This is my best friend. We don't like that beer.
I can't even. This is my best friend.
So here's why, right? Like, okay, whenever I talk to either one of you clowns, but mostly David, Letty will say, did you invite David to so-and-so, right? Like today. I was like, yeah, I invited him. What did he say? I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you know what I'm saying? If he comes, he comes. If he doesn't, fuck him. You know what I'm saying? And she knows I'm like, whatever. Or I could call David. The other day, I think a couple of years ago, I called him and he's like, oh man, bro, I got to meet him. I was like, all right, well, fuck you. And I hung up and just kept driving. It's nothing. I can't say that to my wife. I can't be like, all right, fuck you.
Yeah, but those are semantics.
No, it's not. It's just
dynamics.
But what I'm saying is that your dynamic has gone along with I will say a specific vernacular that both of you have developed that is your level of humor and how you maintain the relationship.
Yeah.
But it's semantics.
But we have a level of humor with your significant other too.
Right, which is different. And then every friend is going to be a little bit different.
I think with your wife, there's certain things you can do, and then there's a boundary you never cross. You're like, unless shit is going downhill, right? That's when all the shit, everything's, off the table, right? But if you want your relationship to last, if you want to maintain a very good relationship, you don't cross these barriers. Like you don't.
Now I will say, I mean, that's any relationship.
Any relationship has barriers.
Yes, but I think with your wife, there's some. I cross those barriers with David all the time.
Yeah, but those are just the barriers you've set up with the friendship that you have. You set up barriers based on the relationship.
I mean, you don't want to be I'm not saying you be an asshole with every relationship. I'm just saying that there's things that you're kinder, right, with your wife. You kind of, you don't walk on eggshells, but you're more respectful of it, right? And I think with friends, sometimes you're less respectful.
Well, but also
and that doesn't make the friendship any less. I don't think
exactly. I'm not saying it makes it any less.
But you can't do that.
That's because men also goad each other. There's a lot of things that you do with male friends that if you had a female friend, you also would not do.
Right.
Because men goad each other differently. Right. I think that there's just I think that there is a consistent, I will say, parameters that have to be set on every friendship, and they don't need to stay where they are. They evolve and devolve depending on how you grow together within that friendship, right? So your friendship that's with a woman, a female friend, even if you meet her and the immediate intent is to, we'll use an old school term, to court her, right? You're dating, you're doing whatever, but you have to gain some familiarity first, which is why dating even exists. We're not in the old school world where you can just go and talk to her father and say, I'm going to marry her. And then y'all make terms behind her back without her even knowing, right? This is where you now have to gain her attention, her favor, and all of that stuff.
Where are you going with this? Because you lost me.
Now I'm just talking about, this is the way that you gain all relationships and all friendships. Because if you meet someone, even a fraternity brother, but you indicate that you're not someone I can trust with knowledge, information, attending something that might be a little more intimate, then you're going to be left out there. You're not going to be a very good friend. The more that you show trust and intent and kindness and all those other things, those are the things that you start to draw in closer to you, but they look different from one person to another. Us goading each other is part of how we relate to each other. And we also know, I think for the most part, if we are going to overstep a bound, or even if we do overstep and didn't notice it in the moment, we would make amends for that. Right. And these are just things that you learn over time. So what I'm saying is that ultimately your friendships, you're talking about barriers and them being different because they're male or female, but there are...
No, I think they're different because that's your wife.
I don't know that that's the only delineation. It's because they're
because then that puts my wife just every other female that's a friend, and it's not. Like,
it's not. It's your best female friend.
No, it's just not a friend. She's my wife. Just like the jokes.
Well, yes, you have. That's what we label that when you go through the legal process of doing all this. I just don't understand why you look so negatively on.
I don't think that he's looking at it negatively.
No, but by the she's my best friend. That's not.
I don't know. That's the way I hear it too. That's kind of how I hear it.
Yeah. I'm like, look at this freaking jackass.
My better half.
This is my best friend. Shut your ass up. Anybody want to hear all that?
I mean, I don't introduce anyone that way. This is my best friend. This is just a friend. This is my wife. Like whatever.
Yeah.
It is. This is my colleague.
If I asked your wife if you were her best friend, what would she say?
I don't know.
She'd name like
She'd be like, I hate
10
that
other
mother-
people first.
I hate that.
I would be willing to bet that she would say the same. It's just that whenever it comes up for us or something like that, she usually says like, "You're my person," and that's just her vernacular for
Best
same
friend.
thing that I'm saying for best.
So I don't know. I know you don't listen to our podcast, DLH.
Sometimes,
but you were in the room when this was stated, when MT told the story with Val that they were doing they were getting their Catholic merit badges,
Yeah.
and then they're sitting in front of the priest, and then he asked Val, like, who's your best friend?
Didn't she tell you couldn't retell this story?
It's already on air, so and so she says, "Oh, it's my friend so and so. She's been going to your congregation this whole time." And he's like, "Your best friend is supposed to be MT." Yeah. and then MT says, "I guess it'd be disingenuous if I say that was my best friend."
Yeah. But then he said she is.
I don't know what he said.
That's what he said after. You didn't hear
Really?
that after?
No.
I
tuned out.
But he said, "But she is."
No, he didn't say that.
Yeah, he did.
No, he said, "He's my best friend."
He still said it. He just said it in that way.
After a long pause, he said,
"Oh my God, I laughed at that so hard." Yeah.
Do it again right now while they're silent.
No, we've retired DLH for the day.
Come on.
Anthropologically speak.
I'm a damn doctor.
All right.
Interesting.
He sound like Thurston Howell the Third and shit. Come on, Lovey. Oh man. Anyway, as we move forward,
Are we gonna make a motion?
Yeah,
How are we going to get a board approved out of this?
we can. We already agree.
Yeah, 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1.
Okay, so I'm outvoted
Yeah.
as the minority
Board of-
stakeholder.
Yeah, board approved. Your wife isn't your best friend, right?
You got my vote.
Yeah.
No,
DLH, you're abstaining.
I dissent.
So there you go. Board approved. Your wife ain't your best friend.
2-1. 2-1.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on your social media, and or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram and X. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.